In the city of Boston, during a cold February night in 1770, a very sad thing happened. An 11-year-old boy named Christopher Snyder died in the street. He was shot by a man named Ebenezer Richardson. Richardson was a British customs officer. People in the city knew him because he often gave information to the British King's government. Christopher and some other children were outside a merchant's house. This merchant was selling British goods. Many colonists had agreed not to buy these goods. They did this to protest new British taxes. Richardson got very angry and fired his gun into the crowd. Christopher Snyder was hit. He died from his wound. He was perhaps the first person to die in a fight for American freedom. The big war for independence would officially start 5 years later. A young Boston lawyer named John Adams was riding in the countryside. He then saw Christopher Snyder's funeral. The large crowd surprised him very much. It was the funeral of a child, but it brought together so many people that it seemed more like a political gathering than a sad family service. What Adams saw was sorrow, yes, but he also saw something more. He saw how the anger of the colonists was growing strong. It was turning into a shared mourning for the boy. This event showed how people felt deep inside. They felt that the British rule was unfair. Only a few weeks later, British soldiers shot at a crowd in Boston. This event is called the Boston Massacre. The people of Boston were already ready for a fight. They were already angry and organized. They were already ready to mourn dead children as if they were soldiers in a war that had not been declared. The atmosphere in the colonies was like a powder keg, ready to explode. Small events like Christopher's death added more and more tension. This is often how revolutions begin. They do not always start with big, important speeches or debates by leaders. Instead, they can start with the small, ordinary deaths of regular people. These deaths, because of how people feel and how stories are told, become signs of unfair treatment by the government. The American Revolution was a good example of this. These events slowly prepared the way for the coming war for independence. They made people believe that fighting was necessary for their freedom. 2. Why the war started. The war began for several important reasons. One main reason was money. After a big war called the 7 Years' War, Great Britain had a huge debt. This war, which ended in 1763, was fought against France, and Britain won new lands in North America. But winning was expensive. Britain thought the American colonies should help pay for this debt. They also believed the colonies should help pay for British soldiers who would stay in the new lands to protect them. So, the British Parliament started to make new rules and taxes for the colonies. In 1764, they passed the Sugar Act. This law put new taxes on sugar and molasses brought into the colonies from other countries. Then, in 1765, came the Stamp Act. This was a direct tax on many everyday items in the colonies. People had to pay a tax on newspapers, legal papers, playing cards, and other important documents. To show they paid the tax, these papers needed an official stamp. The colonists became very angry about these taxes. They insisted it was taxation without representation. This meant they had to pay taxes, but they had no one in the British Parliament to speak for them or represent their interests. They believed it was wrong for Parliament to tax them because they had no voice there. For many centuries, the principle in British law stated that subjects could only be taxed by leaders they chose. But in America, colonists could not choose members of Parliament. They felt their basic rights as Englishmen were being ignored. Another big problem was the courts. If colonists did not pay the new taxes, they went to special British courts. These courts were called Vice Admiralty courts. In these courts, there were no juries of local people. Usually, a jury is a group of ordinary people who decide if someone is guilty or not. But in these British courts, only judges appointed by the king decided cases. These judges sometimes got paid more if they found people guilty. Colonists felt this was very unfair and went against their birthrights. The denial of a trial by jury fueled their anger. These new taxes and unfair courts made the anger in the colonies grow stronger, pushing them closer to war. 3. The leaders and the first fights. Many important people became leaders in the fight for independence. Their reasons were sometimes simple and sometimes very complicated. George Washington, a rich farmer, wanted the colonies to be free. He also owned much land in the western areas. British rules stopped this land from growing in value. So his own money interests were tied to the colonists' freedom. Washington became the main army leader even though he was not fully ready at first. He learned from his mistakes and became stronger. Thomas Jefferson wrote famous words about freedom and equality for all people. However, he also owned many enslaved people. He understood that slavery was wrong, but thought ending it was not possible at that time. Other leaders like Benjamin Franklin had business reasons for wanting change. Samuel Adams was very good at sharing strong messages to make colonists angry at Britain. Groups like the Sons of Liberty were already organizing protests. They made sure colonists did not buy British goods and sometimes scared tax collectors. This helped unite the colonies against British rule. Britain still had a tax on tea. In December 1773, this tax made colonists very angry. Many men, some dressed as Native Americans, got onto British ships in Boston Harbor. They threw 342 boxes of tea into the water. This event is known as the Boston Tea Party. Britain reacted strongly to the Boston Tea Party. Parliament passed new laws in 1774 that colonists called the Intolerable Acts. These laws closed Boston Harbor. They also took away some of Massachusetts's self-rule and sent more British soldiers to Boston. These harsh acts made the colonies more unified against Britain. Representatives from different colonies then met at the First Continental Congress in September 1774 to plan a response. In April 1775, British soldiers marched to Concord to take away colonial military supplies. On their way, they met colonial soldiers in Lexington. Shots were fired, and 8 colonists died. This was the first fighting of the war. The British continued to Concord, but then had to march back to Boston. Colonial militiamen shot at them from behind trees and stone walls, killing 73 British soldiers. The war had officially started. 2 months later, another big battle happened at Bunker Hill. American soldiers fought bravely, even though they were outnumbered and low on ammunition. The British won after 3 attacks, but lost many soldiers. Americans learned that they could stand and fight against the powerful British Army. 4. Money and a war of words. Before the fighting truly began, money was a big reason for the growing anger. The American colonies had strong businesses. They sold farm goods and made things like ships. But Britain had many rules that hurt American trade. Laws called the Navigation Acts made colonists trade only with Britain or on British ships. This meant colonists could not sell their goods to other countries for better prices. They also could not make certain products, like cotton clothes, if those competed with British goods. The Currency Act stopped colonies from printing their own money. These rules made American merchants and business owners very unhappy. They felt their chances to get rich were being taken away. British taxes also hurt specific groups. The Stamp Act, for example, affected printers, lawyers, and merchants the most. These were educated people who knew how to organize and speak out. The Tea Act, which gave a British company special rights, made American tea sellers lose money. These economic problems pushed many colonists to want change. They believed that fighting for freedom would also protect their businesses and wealth. But money was not the only tool. Leaders also used words and pictures to win people's minds. This was called propaganda. Samuel Adams was very good at this. He used newspapers to spread ideas against Britain. He helped change the story of the Boston Massacre. He and his friends made it seem like British soldiers simply shot peaceful colonists without reason. Paul Revere made a famous picture of the Boston Massacre that showed this unfair view. This picture was shared widely and made many colonists furious at Britain. One of the most powerful writings was a small book called Common Sense. Thomas Paine, a new immigrant to America, wrote it in early 1776. Paine's book said that America should be completely free from Britain. He wrote in simple language that everyone could understand. He challenged the king's authority and said that reconciliation with Britain was impossible. Common Sense sold more than 150,000 copies and was read aloud in public places. It moved many people emotionally and intellectually, convincing them that independence was the right and necessary path. 5. The war's secret helpers. The war for independence was not only fought by soldiers. Many people helped in secret ways. Their efforts were very important, but history books often forget them. These groups made big choices and faced many dangers. Women played a key part in the war. Many women traveled with the army. They worked as nurses, cooks, and laundresses. They made sure soldiers had food, clean clothes, and care when they were hurt. Some women even worked as spies. Anna Smith Strong, for example, used her laundry on a clothesline to send secret messages. The way she hung clothes told American spies where to find important information. Another spy, Lydia Darragh, watched British officers from her home and passed on their plans, helping to save George Washington's army from a surprise attack. These women risked their lives for the cause. African Americans faced a hard choice. Both the British and the American side were at first against letting black men be soldiers. But in 1775, a British governor promised freedom to enslaved people who joined the British Army. Thousands of enslaved Africans joined the British side, hoping for liberty. The American side later allowed free black men to fight. Some enslaved men also fought for America with a promise of freedom. Between 5,000 and 8,000 African Americans fought for America. About 20,000 fought for Britain. However, for many, the promise of freedom was not kept after the war, no matter which side they chose. Native American tribes also had to choose a side in the war. At first, many wanted to stay out of the conflict. But both the British and the Americans asked them for help. The powerful Iroquois Confederacy split. Some nations, like the Oneida, helped the Americans. Others, like the Mohawk, joined the British. This meant that Native American warriors sometimes fought against each other. After the war, American victory led to Native American lands being taken. The war brought more challenges to their way of life and their lands. These groups showed courage and helped shape the war. Their stories remind us that many people, not just the famous leaders, fought for different kinds of freedom. 6. A war around the world. The American Revolution was not just a fight in the colonies. It became a big war around the world. Other European countries saw a chance to weaken Britain, their old enemy. This made the conflict much larger than many people remember. At first, France helped America secretly. A French company sent many things like gunpowder, weapons, and uniforms. American soldiers used French supplies in important battles, like the Battle of Saratoga. Without this secret help, the American army would have had many more problems fighting the powerful British. Later, in 1778, France officially joined the war as an ally. French soldiers came to North America. More importantly, the French Navy, or Sea Force, became very active. Spain also joined the war against Britain, making the fight even bigger across oceans and on different continents. The French Navy was key to the final victory. In 1781, the war's last big battle happened at Yorktown. General Cornwallis, a British leader, was trapped by American and French soldiers. He hoped the British Navy would come and save his troops. But the French fleet, led by Admiral de Grasse, fought and beat the British Navy nearby. This meant no help could reach Cornwallis. With no escape, the British had to give up. The war ended soon after. Many people think the war was won by everyday citizens, like farmers with guns. This is a popular idea, but it is not completely true. These citizen soldiers, sometimes called Minutemen, were important at the start of the war, especially at Lexington and Concord. But they did not serve for a long time. Their guns, like muskets, were also not very accurate. After the first fights, the Continental Army became the main fighting force. This was a regular army with trained soldiers. They committed to years of service and learned how to fight in organized groups. George Washington led this army. It was this trained army, helped a lot by French supplies and soldiers, that finally won the American Revolution. The idea of the citizen soldier became a myth that often hid the real hard work of a professional army and the crucial help from other nations. 7. A new country's big problems. The new country, America, faced many big problems after the war. One of the biggest was a contradiction. The fight for freedom allowed slavery to continue. Many leaders spoke about liberty and how all people were equal. But many of these same men owned slaves themselves. Thomas Jefferson, who wrote about human equality, kept over 600 enslaved people during his life. People like Abigail Adams and the free black preacher Lemuel Haynes saw this problem clearly. They asked how America could fight for its own freedom while keeping others enslaved. The new rules for the country, called the Constitution, even protected slavery. For example, it included the 3/5 compromise. This meant that each enslaved person was counted as 3/5 of a person. This helped states with many slaves get more power in the government. Also, there was a rule that if an enslaved person ran away to a free state, that state had to return them. This made slavery stronger in the new country than it had before. Not everyone could vote or be part of the new government. Women could not vote. Most men who did not own property could not vote either. So, only a small number of people had a say in how the country was run. People did not even directly choose the president. The country's founders also worried about having too much democracy. James Madison, an important writer of the Constitution, was afraid that if everyone had too much power, it would lead to problems and instability. He wanted to make sure that no single group or person could take all the power. So, the Constitution created a government with different parts, like checks and balances. This system was designed to limit power and keep the country stable, but it also meant that real democracy was limited in many ways. 8. The war's lessons for today. The American Revolution happened a long time ago, but its lessons are still important for us today. Many of the big talks about how our government should work and how much freedom people should have started back then. These important talks are still going on in America now, 2.5 centuries later. People then argued about how much power the main government, called the federal government, should have. They also talked about how much power states should have and what rights people have that the government cannot take away. Today, we still discuss these same things. For example, people argue about how big the federal government should be. They also talk about what the president can do and what Congress can do. Even questions about a free press and sharing news have roots in those early days. This shows that the old debates from the Revolution are still alive and affect our lives. The American example also changed the world. It showed other countries that people could fight against a strong empire and win. The idea that governments get their power from the consent of the people, not from a king, spread to other lands. The French Revolution, which happened soon after, used many ideas from America. Countries in South America also got ideas from the American fight for freedom. The American Revolution made people, everyone, think about their own freedom and the right to choose their leaders. So, the Revolution's biggest gift is not a list of easy answers. Instead, it is a set of important questions that we still face. The leaders of 1776 asked, "What is freedom? Who should have it? How can we make everyone equal and protect minorities? How much power should the government have to keep order?" The revolution started a long conversation, and it is still not finished. Every time we talk about government power or people's rights today, we are part of that conversation. The fight for independence in 1776 began these big questions. We are still trying to find the best answers for our time. What do you think is the most important lesson from the American Revolution for us today? Please leave your thoughts in the comments.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.